Toastmasters and guests. February 2nd was the coldest day in the state of Utah. I looked it up on the internet. It was so cold right here in Salt Lake City that the angel Moroni's lips froze to the mouthpiece on his horn, and a whole new fairy tale was spawned about Moroni and the golden goose boats. Well, anyway, up where I was hiking and hunting about 400 feet up above Kings Peak in the Uinta Mountains. It was so cold there. Oh my goodness, I'd never been in a place more cold than that. It was so cold that when I stopped at the fork in the trail to try to decide which way to go, my shadow froze to the ground and I had to walk off and leave it. I couldn't pick it up until the spring thaw in August. Well, anyway, I was up there and it was getting harder and harder to move forward, and I realized that the air was frozen. And so I took the butt of my black powder rifle and bang! I smashed that air, and then I could move forward, and I smashed it again. And so that's how I was hiking up there in those high hills. But I started suffocating because all that broken air was falling down to the ground, and there wasn't any air around me. I out of desperation, reached down and I grabbed a hold of one of those air sickles and I stuck it in my mouth. And, I could finally breathe. So there I was, hunting up there in those cold mountains, sucking on air sickles to breathe. And that was the same day that a fire started up there in those mountains in the Ashley National Forest. And the Forest Service blamed me for starting it. They said, improper use of combustibles. Well, I'm here to set the record straight. It wasn't my fault. You see, I was up there, had my snowshoes on, and busting the air with my rifle, and I come to this spot where the snow is just all upheaved. Some of the snow is over here, some over there. Looked like there'd been a great big bear fight. Huge. There were big, huge bear prints in the snow. And I'm looking at all those bear prints in the snow, and I almost bumped into one of the prettiest, most beautiful crystals, and it was just hanging there in the air. And I looked at it, and I carefully took it out of the air, and wow, this thing's got to be worth a fortune. So I opened up the flap to my possibles bag, I put it down in my bag, and then I saw another one. And I went over to it and I started looking around and I was finding more of them. I was going around picking up these beautiful crystals and putting them in my air bag. Well, or possibles bag. Then I saw this glassy green ball laying in the snow. I reached down, I picked it up. It had to be the most valuable emerald I'd ever seen. I couldn't wait to get back down the valley and have them appraised, so I put it in my possibles bag. I rushed back down the mountain, and I was so cold I started a fire, and I was warming my hands by the fire. Had my possibles bag just, kind of hanging off of my shoulder, and I'm warming my hands, and all of a sudden I hear, roar! Well, just then, the flap on my possibles bag goes, roar! And what is this? I open up a possibles bag just as one of those other crystals goes, roar! I figured out real quick what it was. I knew what it was. Those were frozen sound waves of those bears fighting up in the mountains. And then all of a sudden, boom! That glassy green ball explodes right in my face. I couldn't breathe. That was the worst stink I ever saw. And when it blew up, it caught the fire, even more on fire, and it went whoosh. And it went out and it started the entire forest on fire. So I'm here to tell you, if you're ever hunting and you find on a very cold day a glassy green ball laying in the snow, you leave it alone. Because you know what that glassy green ball was? It was a frozen bear stinker. And they blame me for catching the forest on fire. I didn't know know it was a gassy green ball. I thought it was a glassy green ball. And when it exploded, it caught the forest on fire. And I don't want to have to pay the $12 million restoration fee, Mr. Ghostmaster.